Hey everyone, welcome to West Coast Muscle Saws. I want to try to take a little bit of the mystery out of the bar grooves on chainsaws. I know a lot of guys will pick up these vintage bars and then they're going to try to match up a chain and they struggle a lot with it. Give me a call and kind of try to figure out the chain that they want to put on it. This is a vintage 6-foot bar, very nice bar for a McCulloch. And this is a little over a 4-footer. But the problem is, you've got different grooves. This groove of the bar, there are different gauges. There's many different gauges, but the ones we're going to deal with today are 50, .050, 58, .058, and .063 gauge, 63 gauge. So when you get your bar, what you want to do is to take a putty knife or something like that. I put a little hook in mine so I can really get in there and clean out the groove really well. Because we're going to be putting a chain in there to measure, so you want to groove it all out. Get you some gloves on, you're going to be dealing with some sharp chain. And what I've got here is samples of chain. One of them is a .050, one's a .058, and one's a .063. And what you want to do is to start with the 63 gauge first. Let's get this nice bar out of the way. .63 gauge chain and put it in the groove and fits in there just beautiful. Now if this was a .058, which is very common on these bars, this 63 gauge would not fit in and be tight, and then you would drop down to the .058 and try that. And some of them were 50 gauge. A lot of your newer bars today are 50 gauge, and of course we're not going to talk about the smaller bars. Some of those are .043 gauge, real narrow gauge. But anyway, get you some samples of chain. You can go to your local shop and explain to them what you want to do, and they'll usually give you 3 samples of the different gauges. And I keep them hanging on your bench. It's very handy. This is a roller nose vintage 70s bar. We'll fit on a McCulloch or a home light. It also was universal for the home lights. So you want to put a chain in there. Now you don't have to worry about the roller nose because it will take 3/8 or 404 depending on what you have on your engine. The very early models had this spur. They didn't have this drum, but they had a spur, and you need to count how many spurs there are on your engine. And you need to take a piece of this chain and see which one fits around those spurs perfectly. That determines your pitch. Pitch being the measurement between the rivets so everything meshes together. If you don't get this right, you will tear up your sprocket and do some damage to the chain. And there's a newer version that came up in the mid-60s, was the floating sprocket. And you got choices on that too. You got 3/8, 404, you got 7-tooth, 8-tooth. And what the guys were doing when they went from a 7 to an 8, they speeded up the chain, making it faster, making it quicker to limb the saws when they were cutting timber. Hear that nice Mustang going by? It goes by every morning. Beautiful. Anyway, and then there's 404. Very common. 7-tooth, and then 8-tooth. You can see this difference in the sizes. Picking up speed by adding an 8-tooth. Knowing what you have on your engine and knowing the gauge, the width of that groove, and there's a roller nose. Depending on what we got on the engine, we can put whatever chain we want, pretty much. Now your sprocket noses, let me grab one. Hang on a second here. Sprocket nose bars actually have a sprocket in the end of it, and it'll be 3/8, 404, 325, different pitches. Well, that has to mesh up perfectly with your chain. And if it does not, you can see how it rides up there, it'll create some major issues. Knowing what we know now, we still got to get the correct length. What I do is to take 404 chain, what we're going to put on this, I'm going to wrap it around that bar. Put it in the groove, and it's got to be really tight. And I'm going to stand it up, do this, get it in there nice and snug. Turn this around so you can see what we're talking about. Knowing we have a 404 7-tooth sprocket, if we wrap that around that sprocket and break it there, we will leave 6 drivers showing. And then we would break it right here. If we had an 8-tooth, then we would have 7 drivers showing. And by showing, I mean exposed. You only want to have if you're dealing with an 8-tooth dry sprocket, you only want to have 7 drivers showing.